This is the season of amplification. This is a special season for those who grew in their reverence for God while going through the turmoil of the COVID pandemic. You are now in position for a level change. And when I say a level change, it's not a level up, but a level of depth. See, it's an Eurocentric perspective to think the higher you go in life, the closer to God you become. But in ancient African wisdom, it tells us that it is the depth of your knowledge, the depth of your wisdom, the depth of your understanding, and how you allow it to live through you in your actions that gives you the opportunity to get behind the veil where God exists. This is a special season for those who have a healthy fear in God and not in a COVID mutation or a variant that continues to put restraints on our old way of living. Because in the depth of our understanding, we know that change is imminent, and our ability to adapt to change will reflect on how we fulfill God's purpose in our lives. We are still on mission, regardless of the COVID pandemic. This season of amplification is a special season for those who spent God's currency wisely. And that's that extra time we were given to spend in our households, to fortify our relationships with our families. That extra time we had to edify our minds, our bodies, and our spirits, so we become more prepared to walk in this new beginning. This is a special season. See, the number 22 is considered a master number because it duplicates and amplifies divine energy. At this moment in time, for the next 365 days, you are getting double the strength, double the creativity, double the protection, double the drive and determination, double the love. This season of amplification, yes, you are made ready for your spiritual breakthrough of 22. Everything is in your reach, but it's still up to you to go get it. Hey, good evening. Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? It's funny, but every time I see my own intro, I get hyped up, right? When I'm on in the low key mode, I get hyped up. But then that particular intro that comes in when we talk about the blessing of 2020 brought me, 2022, it brings me back down, which was good because I didn't want to be too high today. I'm trying to take everything at ease and flow into to all things this season, right? Because I'm getting that double amplification of energy, that double portion of God's spirit, power, wisdom, knowledge, guidance, everything. And again, that only happens when you are walking in your purpose. When you look at it and then you analyze the number 22, you're getting a double proportion of anything, but it's when you know what God has called you to do, or you're aware of it and you're going toward it. If you're getting going towards something that God didn't have no business doing, it's not God that's giving you the energy. And that's some of the things that we got to take a look at too. Where are you getting your drive from? You know, is it your ancestors or is it your evils? Is it your angels or your demons? Woo! That's something to take a look at. You know, we are still here talking about the rise of the African. Yes, the African speaks. We are talking about the rise of the African, the social media Pan African movement is what we're talking about, and is where we are, and is what we do. Again, and I just want to let me see if I can find this picture real quick as we slowly get started. I think it was number 72. Yeah, we just gonna pop it up on the top of the screen. You might hear my voice and lose my face, right? But we taking a look at the Garvey numbers. We know that Marcus Garvey created an experience of black people where it had over 6 to 9 million people worldwide where we were connected with a common cause, common purpose, and that is to be God's people. That is to see the beauty in us, the divinity in us, connect with one another. Now, he was able to do it without social media. He was able to do it without our level of technology. But he mastered the technology of his time, and that's exactly what we have to do. But he also mastered the understanding the mindset of his time, you know. And so that is something that the African Speak is trying to deliver, to help you to understand in a sense of black reality of where we are as a people, and how do we get to that point of being a risen people, the rise of the African, being a body of people who are kingdom building, that an ascension of God's kingdom, of God's purpose in our lives as a whole, not just an individual, but as a whole group, you know. And that's a whole different feeling when you talk about the group as a movement, and not just moving in your life, but we also, you know, want to make sure that you understanding the God in you, and hitting your purpose and your cause and your gifts and your talents. As you move forward, your blessings gonna come in your life the same way it's gonna come in my life, but then we get to also move it where it can come in everybody's life. Why not? Why live a selfish life? We're gonna talk about that. Than over a selfless. I'd rather be selfless than selfish, and we'll discuss that. But as we move toward our greater understanding of the rise of the African, and this being a social media movement, I'm going to be buckling down myself and fine tuning some things about what I'm doing as these days goes on. But we want to make sure that if you're watching us on Facebook, please like, comment, share. This is how we do this now. We to create the algorithms, to develop the algorithms. This is what's needed. I'll be emailing people personally to sit on, and write them out, conversate, talk, all of it, to try to generate that energy. Other than that, I just got to continue doing what God has called me to do, and let God do the rest, and the community do the rest. I'm just here to do what I'm called to do. Now, also, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. This way, every time that we are up and doing multiple shows and programs, you are notified. And because this is a scenario where I get to do what I want to do when I want to do it, it's a call. So I respond to the call. If somebody says, "Hey, I got something on my heart to say and speak, can we talk?" Let's go live, and we'll talk to the community. We'll interact with the community. This is who we are, and this is what we do. And so we also ask you that, always be on the lookout for our future programming, which is Sunday from Akibaland uh, uh, Inspirational Sunday, right? And that's at 12. Then we have, of course, Tuesday nights is African Speaks. Thursday night we have Afro Stream. Last Saturday we missed African history and African spirituality class, roots and culture, because we had a homegoing ceremony for one of the most powerful, most wealthiest brothers I've ever seen in my life. And I spent the week, literally spent the week, let me flip this, working on the homegoing ceremony visuals. My blood pressure was out of this world because I was really, um, and I should have took it more in prayer, that I really want the family and the community to feel like, he was truly celebrated. And It was a lot of work to do in a little bit amount of time, and because of all the other things that I carry. But I said, God, please give me the ability to accomplish this. And so that's what I did. And in that space, and do I have another one that I could sit in that space? Well, I had to start talking to myself about what has God been asking me to do, right? And so, which is comes back to the rise of the African. And so my thought process was different today and this week. Monday, I really had to allow myself to crash, you know what I mean, just to so that I can continue doing what God has called me to do, right? And so the concept of, in that space of the homegoing ceremony, the thought of the rise of the African is a generational love. And we talk about it on you Sunday. We talk about the covenant promise that I will be your God and you will be my people, when it's about based off a relationship. And so we understand that we can't move as a people without that relationship. And what is that relationship? It's a relationship of love. Mm. It's a relationship of love. And what I'll add is, at the end of the ceremony, one of my, one of my daughters, I call them, uh, little sisters. She could be a little sister too. I'm not that old. One of my little sisters came up, and I felt her, and we had a conversation about Walamu Chukuyu, which is the brother who transitioned. One love, Walamu. He's in the room. He was with me all week, giving me guidance on how to put this thing together. Uh, Real talk. Um, and so as we were talking, I called her, and she has a business that helps individuals take care of the elderly in their community. And so I was like, wow, what's been happening with me this whole time, throughout this process, this last week or so. I've been dealing with the issue of generational connections. And so I was like, and so today, literally at 5, it hit me, and that's when I hurry up and put the flyer together. I got to discuss the issue of a generational love. And if I don't produce, because this is what the frequency of life that I've been living in the last week. And so sometimes when things are like, I have another friend who's going through a whole lot, and I was like, Queen, you're going through it's a spiritual warfare right now. You're being spiritually attacked. And you have to approach this from a spiritual sense before you approach it from a physical sense. You got to look at, sometimes, to slow down and figure out what's going on around you. And for me, my frequency has been talking about a generational love. And how does that manifest itself in the rise of the African? Wow. You know, because coming out of I watched I was just all the TV shows that I've been watching this week were based off of Harlem and the development of Harlem. So I watched Hoodlums. I watched The Godfather of Harlem. You know what I'm saying? I watched American Gangster. And so what I was doing in that state of embarking on, and in the Godfather of Harlem. Oh wait, I watched One Night in Miami, and of course, then we had the homegoing ceremony, and after the homegoing ceremony, it's Martin Luther King Day. I'm in an experience of the generation before me, because watching the Godfather of Harlem, I'm watching Malcolm X, right? And then I started doing research on Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad, and it was just pulling me. Then I'm back in the fold of watching Muhammad Ali, and man, Muhammad Ali is my all-time favorite person. And if you could think about a kid watching somebody jump up and down in the ring saying, I shook the world. And there was a big globe in my house, and I went back, and when I was hearing, I shook up the world, I went to the globe and I would spin the globe. And I could be about, man, I could have been about 7, 8, 9 years old maybe. And I remember spinning the globe and just stopping it, looking at the world and saying, oh, he shook up Turkey, spinning around, and stopped it. He shook up Russia, spinning around. He shook up Asia and Greenland, and just wondered what it would be like to, as a black man, to shake up the world. Mm. And so understanding, and I think what I've been going through is why I do what I do. What have I got from those who have gone before to understand what I need to lay down with those who will come after. And so the whole concept of everything looking at the various movies and the various programs, I called my best friend from New York and was like, yo, asked her, did she see, uh, um, One Night in Miami? And she was like, yeah. And then I was like, I was crying, and she was like, me too. And then that change gonna come, man, that hit me. And then of course everything that Sam Cooke went through. I remember the two deaths of Sam, and everything that they tried to do to hold us back as a people, not tried, everything they do. Let's get in the present tense to hold us back. And in that space, I was watching those four men in that room. And I said, what would the world been like if they would have been able to work together? Hmm. Each one of them had their own lane. And in American society, it keeps us from, and I'm way off the diagram, right? Um, in American society, it keeps us from working together, and we create our own lanes. Mhm. And not a unified lane. If those four could find a platform where they could not just kick it with each other, because in the conversation they were discussing, um, Muhammad Ali made the statement that we got to be friends. And he was like, why I got to be friends? To hell with them. Because we the only ones who know what each other's going through because of the level of life in which we living on. We need each other. We need each other to keep each other grounded, basically, you know? And so understanding that, but then looking at those individuals, you realize that it was hard that once a particular personality or figure left, what came behind it, you know? And so when I'm going through the homegoing ceremony of Walamu Chukuyu, and I did the man, uh the music, the legacy, and that was the key word, legacy. What is the legacy of people? And so, just discussing some of the things where, and this is where, again, Rise of the African, a generation of love. And I can talk about the topics of mindset. I could talk about psychological conditioning. I could talk about programming and deprogramming, spiritual frequency, but it has to have a foundation of love first. And so when people ask me, why do I do what I do? And that's when I'm creating worlds of Akiba land. Somebody was like, you don't ever have to worry about what Brother Jay gonna do when it comes to liberation of black people, because he just gonna do it. I'm not waiting to be told or voluntold. When you know what God has called you to do, you just create it, you produce it, and you give it, and you hope people receive it and come back with it. And so it's a place of a love. I know what it's like to be lonely. Ooh. To be the only one in the room that understands you is you. Ooh. Where everybody else is connected. I sat down and said, man, I can't have anybody else live that journey. I know what it's like to be the one everybody lean on. I grew up like that. And so I said, you know what, let me help. Let me help create an experience where we as a people can experience a love language of service. Woo. We talking about the rise of the African as a generational love affair. Yes. Because the most hardest thing to do is to make something transgenerational. What? How do you make something transgenerational when a king has a kingdom? He has a son because he expects his son to live as a king. He passes that on. When a king has a daughter, he raises us as a princess because there will be a prince coming. Because you will be creating what? A kingdom. I will raise you in royalty to pass it on. I'm going to give you the best teaching, the best love, the best this, the best that. Why? Because we are kingdom building, and I want you, it's a generational experience. And so when you have us celebrating Martin Luther King Day, what is the purpose? What was he trying to do? What was and I'm not necessarily the philosophy fan. You know what I mean? I'm not. And that could be a whole argument in itself. Really. Right. I'm more of a Garveyite. Yeah. I'm more of a Garveyite, straight up. Because when Garvey came about it, it was an issue of love. And what he was trying to do was get black people to fall back in love with themselves and create things out of that love, that generation. When Garvey was gone, it was gone. You didn't hear the UNIA anymore because it's so hard to get people to understand that this movement of blackness is supposed to be generational. So it's a way you teach your children. How did your mom, it's when you're looking at your family tree, and you ever ask yourself, what were their sacrifices? For us to enjoy life as we sit here, what were their sacrifices? What did they go through to get us where we are? And how is it not an issue of a generational love? Those who have gone before had to not just look at themselves. I want a better life for me. Wait a minute. When you have a woman who children is being ripped from her, where you don't get to dictate the life of your children, it ain't about you. It's about a black love. Let's get that transcends generations. It's about a love affair that you have with your people, with your bloodline, with your heritage, with your culture, and that you fight for. But not only a fight, but it's a lesson that you teach. We got to be able to realize that liberation has to be taught into the generation after generation after generation. Now, there are always going to be battles within the generations. There's always going to be battles. There's always going to be a battle. There's always going to be a fight. Because sometimes the youngest generation feels like the older generation doesn't understand what we're going through in our time. And I wish I had a clock. And so there are always those battles of understanding. But what the common denominator is in black life, where we're trying to express a life of black love. And we're not getting, this is the part we're not getting, because we're living selfishly and we have a misunderstanding of what black love is. It's not about you. It's about how you love on someone who looks like you. Wow. Because we all live regardless of the generations, we all live in a world that is restrictive. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and at times physically. Yes. Definitely restrictive. We don't get to be all God called us to be by embracing the world that we live in. No, this is who we are. So how do you get to an experience of black love if it's not fighting for a state of enlightenment, right? So when we talking about self-care, ooh, we're going to talk about self-care. Ooh. Self-care is not selfish. When people say, I need to love on me. Let's stop and let's talk about, let's redefine the word self-care. If your self-care empowers you to only serve you, that's selfishness. If your self-care only focuses on you satisfying you for the sake of you, and at the end of it, there is nothing else, that's selfishness. But when you self-care, that means you're loving on, oh, did I post it? No, I didn't put it up here because we talk about it. Let me talk about it. I gotta go and do the fact that I don't have it. We're gonna, oh man, I missed that one too. We're gonna add this, but we're gonna drop it right here. Boom. We talk about that melanin magic, that self-care where you fall in love with the power of what God placed in you. And you nurture yourself to manifest the most powerful melanin magic that you possibly can. Why? For the sake of enlightenment. Now we're talking about a different level of self-care. When we're talking about how do we get this rise of the African to a point where it's flowing through the generations, we got to teach self-care, black love, enlightenment, and what it means in the time in which we're in, because in the world in which we're fighting against, Wait, we at wait. I gotta get back to the page, You know, this is uh, cause this is our common denominator. Your self-care is supposed to prepare you for the struggles that lie ahead that we have as a people. The minute you can embrace the fact that we're fighting against this on a regular basis, you can get to that black love. You can get to understand. I gotta study who I am as a person. Why? Because this world is keeping me from it, and that's not where I want to be. I want to be here. Why? Because we're trying to get here. You feel me? Let's go back. Let's go back. I like that. I like that. We're trying to express an experience of self-care because we're looking to express in our lives our black love. Not for the sake of self, but for the sake of spiritual enlightenment. Why? Because we are battling a world that is holding us back from who we are. So true self-care, wait, let me get that. It's not selfish, it's selfless. When you're not focused on just you, but I have to charge. That's why people don't. And I said, let me do this because a lot of people don't understand why I do what I do. Said, brother, you need to take care of yourself more. I said, I do. I will. Why? Because I got to get back to doing what I'm called to do. Don't ask me to back up. Don't ask me to stop. Don't ask me to slow down. Don't ask me to put brakes on. No, ask me to gain more focus so that I can produce more. Do I need sleep? I'm gonna get some sleep. I'm gonna eat right. I'm gonna exercise. I'm gonna do all that for the sake of what? My self-care generates energy to produce an experience in life, which is now focused on taking the world of Akibland and the African Speaks to create an experience of the rise of the African. A social media Pan-African movement. Most people don't understand why the people, and let me drop this, and I'm gonna do this because I got them. The people in our area, in our time, why the rise of the African, Marcus Garvey, and the Garvey movement. Why the Nation of Islam and the movement to self-determination. Why the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church, Reverend Albert B. Cleave, the Shrines of the Black Madonna, major movements. Why did we do those things? Why do we have a history of individuals struggling to change? Ooh, let me do this. Wow, our black reality. Why? What is that purpose? And I found it. And we talk about it, but we don't go into depth with it. And that's easy. It's out of black love. And it has to be generational or things don't change. The rise of the African is a generational love. Why? Because I that celebration that I was a part of, life, I knew that my life had to be recommitted after watching someone sacrifice on my behalf, literally on my behalf. The rise of the African is a generational love. He would look at me and say, brother, you the future. Don't stop. And he kept doing everything that he could do to pour in to my life and everybody in our community for the sake of black love. This is why we celebrate those individuals in our lives. The question is, what are we going to celebrate about you? When it's your time, what are we going to celebrate? What are we going to do? If I ask you, how do you express your black love, and not your black love that caters to yourself, but the black love that caters to who you see us as in God, right? If I ask you, what does it look like? Could you tell me? Could you show me? Is it an experience? tell people I do it out of the sake of love. I can't stop. I don't know how to turn my heart off. Get emotional. I don't know how to turn my heart off. How do you turn your heart off? How do you let it go? Turn it on and watch it just go. Watch it grow. I always tell people I want to see how much, what is the depth of the love that God has in me that my heart can express. Wow. Why? Because I want to know what it's like to be a weapon of mass creation. Let's talk about last week. Let's talk about it. I want my imagination to run wild and create things that I can, where my community, I'm nation and kingdom building. I'm affecting people all over the world. What? I'm a weapon of mass creation. What am I creating? Black love. What? Because the rise of the African is a generational love, because I'm preparing something for those who will come after me. Why? Out of the respect of those who came before me. Because there has been a world that does not want us to connect, because they don't want us to relive the phrase areas of who we are. They're trying to stop this. But this is what black love leads to. It leads to African empires, kingdoms, domains, dynasties. What? So that rise of the African is a generational love, and it's been something that we've practiced throughout our lives. But we got to find a way to practice it in this generation. But if the conversation doesn't happen between the elders and the young ones, I'm not necessarily an elder yet. I'm just real seasoned. I'm real seasoned. But there has to be that conversation where they understand why. Why did you make the sacrifices? Why did you go through what you went through? What were you trying to experience? Some individuals knew that I might not be around to witness the things that I do, the things that I'm seeking their experience. Some people knew it, but there was always that vision of what we could be. And maybe it may not happen in my generation. Maybe it might happen in another generation, but what bricks do we build to create this generational love experience? This black love experience that is the definition of real self care. It's not selfish, it's selfless. Because we need a generation of black youth. Black, not let's stop that. It's not even black youth, because technology and revolution and liberation doesn't have an age. I'm gonna change my dialogue. Even though I'm here for black youth, yes. But it's gonna take those who are seasoned and those who are wise as elders to give the information to the younger generation of what we are fighting for. We're looking for a generation that embraces their awareness of their divine self. What? The rise of the African is a generational love. How many? And so I not even big. You don't even got to go through history. Speak to your mama. Speak to your grandmama. Speak to the oldest person that influences your life. For those who are elders, remember your mama and your grandmama and the life you grew up in. Wait. Did she say? Let me see something. Okay. One love. How you doing, Naomi? I saw you. But this is what we're looking for. This is where we at. We want this to manifest in the lives of generations after generations after generations. Sometimes as parents, we don't get what we want to get out of our children, right? So we question, did we do it right? Well, that depends. Are your kids walking in enlightenment of who they are? I sit down and I gave my mother a hard time. Man, I gave my mother a hard time because I said, I got a greatness in me that I got to reach. I don't want to be second to nobody else. I want to be the best it is, was, and will ever be. And of course, she was trying to keep me safe in a world that tried to that is created to shut me down. And she always said she was worried about me. I was like, why? She said, because you don't conform. I don't. Uh, and I said, well, ma, I said, I'm not. She said, I feel like when I pass over, when I transition, I'm gonna have to come back and help you. And so be it. I was cool with that definition that she was gonna always come back and help me. So my enlightenment had to grow. My relationship with my ancestors had to grow because I had to be ready to receive the information that she's willing to give because I'm going to buck. Because there was a world that I wanted to conquer in a way that I wanted to conquer it. But lessons, you know, lessons from my ancestors and from my grandmama and from my uncles and from my older cousins on what we need, who we supposed to be. That's back in that day when you talking about somebody asks you who your mama and them is. Who your mama and them? They say, you see, he Mildred's boy. That's all you know. That's all you needed. When you are walking in a generational life experience, and when people say your family's name, they understand the black love that they use to create the identity of their family. So the rise of the African is also that black love identity. When you said my mama's name, everybody knew what was inside of me and said, we know the stock you come from. I'm way off the paper, y'all. We know the stock you created from. And so you have to be able to take that stock, that base, and rise it, create something from it, grow from it. It's that generational love. Because that grandmother's going to raise that child to be the leader of the family. And that child, as you see him, as that child, when she needs wisdom, she's going to turn back and grandma going to be there to feed into her psyche and her spiritual self so that she can take on the world that she lives in. Now, the hard part is sometimes we got old people that don't want to let go. That's the problem. Why? Because they don't trust what they raised. Woo! Let's get it. Because when it's time for your kids to leave, can you let go? Do you trust what you raised? I told my daughter straight up, this is me and my kid. It's personal. Straight up, baby girl. When it's your time, I surrender. But it ain't your time yet. So continue to grow. When you need me, call me. I'll feed you the wisdom. I'll give you what I got. And when it's your time to be the leadership of, I'm going to let you loose. But you got to be able to trust what you raised because you know what you gave, you poured it in. The rise of the African, the rise of your identity is generational love because we're definitely trying to get back to that divine experience of being a people, being a king, knowing what it was like to kingdom build. That's important. Knowing what it's like to be God's chosen. That's why I do what I do. Why do you do what you do? What is the level of your black love? What is the level of your self-care? I always have friends, and I don't ever say anything that talk about me, 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 I need to do this, I need to this, and this for me, this for me, this for me. And I listen, I don't ever say anything. It registers in my head where they aren't. And sometimes I know who I can speak with and who I can't. Who can receive the fact that kingdom building is a whole different level of what you believe it is. Your level of black love and self-care is not leading us to an empire of self-awareness of who we are as God's people. It's only leading to your own benefit. That's different. So my personal frequency that I was vibing on this past few weeks has been the understanding of a generational love. And so I said I'm gonna go back. I actually went back to speak to my community because we're gonna bring the wisdom. I'm here, I'm seasoned, but we about to bring the wisdom to the forefront to let them speak on what it means to have a generational love affair as it relates to the rise of the African. As World of Akiba land develops and grows, and we seek to be across the country versus international, as the African Speaks seeks to build the Marcus Garvey numbers, and we bring black people together under one umbrella for the sake of self-determination. It's out of love. It's a generational love. And man, to watch the elder generation do what they do. When we start celebrating, we got next month coming, Black History coming, but I had to drop this because what I've been personally going through and understanding that this isn't an experience of a generational love. You got to teach it. You got to believe it. You got to love them through it. Let them make their bumps and bruises. But this is a journey of a people, not a person. And you're going to know when your life has reached that state of enlightenment where you become a weapon of mass creation. When everything you do is out of black love, that melanin magic. When you love the darkness in your skin and the darkness of everybody else. And you seek to come together as a people. Wow. That's that love. The African speaks. I want to get quiet where the African listens to the other Africans speak. Right? I like that. I do what I have to do because I have to do it. Who else is going to love on this level? And so if not me, then who else? And so I continue to love until I can find that other person who wants to love just like me. Generational. My daughter has a concept of what she sees to put together for her bloodline. I said, that's powerful. You're about to change multiple families. She said, yes. I said, we're going to embark on a project and we're going to show it out. And so, which is a beautiful thing. And it's on her mother's side. And I said, I'm willing to work complete because I see the black love in that journey. How strong is your black love? Did you pass it on to your children? Do you share it with your peers? Do you share it with your elders? Is it a conversation? Can your elders look at you and be like, man, that's my legacy? Wow. Are you looking at your children and their behaviors and saying, that's my legacy? When you look at yourself and see how you live, can you say, I'm my mama's legacy? I'm my grandmama's legacy. I'm my cousin's legacy. I can say that. Can you? Ain't that something? So from this journey on, as we move forward, let us know that this is about a love affair with ourselves, with God, and each other. And with that, it was funny. Here's a story before I break out. My cousin Jalil, Houdini, first cousin, and he's because of the song he made, coins the phrase "one love," and I always say "one love" when it's just one love, one love. You're lucky just to have with just one love. I'm gonna expound the understanding of one love, because I always say one love. That means that red, black, and green. We one people. With one love, one mind, one set. We one people, and I'm gonna say one love. Why? Because I'm after that one love, that diaspora love. I'm gonna keep this up. I'm never dropping this off unless these numbers get bigger. You feel me? Unless these numbers get bigger. But it's that one love of an African people, you know? And so for that, when I say one love, understand what it is. And every time you see me, you know what I'm working for. And I'm hoping that you find that black love in you and you begin to speak as well. And you join this one love experience where we are building an African empire that's worth calling our legacy. And with that, one love.